It started with a letter. A plain, white envelope. Nothing special to look at. Tucked under the doormat of a quiet house on Maplewood Drive. The kind of envelope that usually carried coupons or neighborhood notices. But this one carried something heavier. Something that could open to life. It was an eviction notice. From the HOA. 30 days to vacate. No explanation beyond the cold words. Violation of community standards. For the HOA, it was routine. A rule broken, a warning sent, a process followed. But for Rebecca, a single mother trying to hold her life together, that letter wasn't just paper. Suit. It was a punch to the chest. She stood there on her porch that morning, staring at the words as sunlight spilled across the page. Her hands trembled. Her son, Jamie, just 6 years old, tugged on her sleeve, asking what was wrong. She smiled weakly and said, "Nothing, baby. It's nothing." But deep down, she knew everything had just changed. Rebecca had lived in Maplewood for only a year. A small home, nothing fancy, but it was hers. She'd saved for years to give Jamie stability, a backyard, a chance to feel normal. She worked nights at a local diner and cleaned offices on weekends. Her days an endless loop of exhaustion and love. The letter didn't just threaten her house. It threatened her hope. Within a day, the whispers started. Maplewood was one of those neighborhoods where rumors bloomed faster than flowers. She's behind on dues. She doesn't keep her property clean. She's not like us. No one asked for her story. No one knocked on her door. They just decided who she was, based on what they wanted to believe. Mr. Langford, the HOA president, was the kind of man who found pride in perfection. The lawns were trimmed to regulation height, trash cans hidden from view, silence after 9 p.m. He believed order was morality. To him, rules weren't suggestions. They were scripture. And Rebecca's house, it wasn't perfect. The paint on the porch peeled from last winter's frost. A toy truck sometimes sat in the yard overnight. And her trash cans, they were visible from the street, because she left for work before dawn. Langford saw only what didn't fit his picture. He saw flaws, not effort. He saw difference, not dignity. He filed the violation himself. To him, it was simple. Order needed to be maintained. But order without empathy is cruelty disguised as structure. Across the street, Mrs. Harris saw what others didn't. She was a widow in her 70s who'd lived in Maplewood her whole life. Long enough to know the difference between right and righteous. She'd watched Rebecca quietly for months. The long hours. The way she rushed home, just to sit with Jamie at the kitchen table, helping him draw dinosaurs before bedtime. Mrs. Harris noticed that Jamie sometimes sat by the window alone, waiting for his mother's headlights to appear. She noticed the fatigue in Rebecca's walk. Not laziness, but the exhaustion of survival. So when that letter came, Mrs. Harris didn't gossip. She asked. She went to Rebecca's porch one afternoon with 2 cups of tea and simply said, "Tell me what's really going on." And for the first time, Rebecca told someone the truth. Her husband had left 2 years ago. Gone without a trace. She'd sold her wedding ring to pay for Jamie's asthma medication. The car had broken down twice in a month. forcing her to walk to work in the rain. She wasn't neglecting her home. She was just fighting to keep it standing. Mrs. Harris listened. She didn't interrupt, didn't offer pity. Just listened. And when Rebecca finished, she said, "Then we're going to fix this. Together." The next day, Mrs. Harris showed up at the HOA meeting. The room was full. Board members, neighbors, even Langford with his iron suit and colder smile. Mrs. Harris stood, her hands trembling but voice clear. "You say this woman violated community standards. But what community are we if we throw out a mother doing everything she can to raise her boy?" A hush fell. Langford frowned, defensive. "Rules exist for a reason," he said. "And compassion exists for a better one," she replied. The silence that followed was louder than any argument. Then something remarkable happened. A mechanic who lived nearby stood up. "I fixed her car last month," he said. "She paid in 3 parts. On time, every cent. You call that a violation?" Another voice joined. A teacher. "Her boy's in my class," she said. "Smart kid. Brings me drawings every week. You're punishing him for what?" "Chip paint." The room shifted. For the first time, the board members weren't talking about property lines or bylaws. They were talking about people. Still, Langford refused to bend. "We have a code," he said. "If we make exceptions, we lose control." Mrs. Harris looked straight in the eye. "You can't lose control of what you never truly had. Order without heart isn't leadership. It's tyranny." The motion to evict was postponed for review. But that wasn't the end. That was the beginning. When Rebecca returned home that evening, she found something waiting. Not another letter, but people. Her neighbors, the same ones who once looked away, now stood in her driveway. Mrs. Harris was holding paint cans. The mechanic had tools. The teacher brought flowers. "We heard you might need a little help," someone said. Tears filled Rebecca's eyes. For the first time, the house didn't feel like a burden. It felt like belonging. That weekend, Maplewood looked different. The air was alive with the sounds of hammers, laughter, and redemption. Jamie painted alongside them, his small hands covered in yellow streaks, giggling as Mrs. Harris told him stories. Neighbors who hadn't spoken in years now worked side by side. Strangers became allies, and the walls that had divided them, invisible, unspoken, began to fall away. When the HOA inspector returned days later, he didn't find violations. He found a miracle. The lawn was perfect. The paint was fresh. The spirit, undeniable. Langford drove by that morning, his car rolling slowly past the porch. He didn't stop. He didn't wave. But his eyes lingered on the laughter, the unity, the light. Maybe for the first time, he realized that rules can make a neighborhood look beautiful. But only compassion makes it feel alive. The story spread beyond Maplewood. Local papers ran headlines. Neighbors unite to stop HOA eviction. Rebecca didn't seek attention. She sought dignity. And now, she had both. Weeks later, the HOA quietly updated its bylaws. New clauses about community-based resolution, neighbor assistance, and consideration of hardship. Small words, but they carried big change. On Maplewood Drive, something had shifted forever. It was no longer a neighborhood of fences. It was a family of people. Sometimes, justice doesn't arrive with a gavel. It arrives with a paintbrush. Sometimes, strength isn't about standing alone. It's about allowing others to stand beside you. And sometimes, the smallest porch can hold the biggest story of human decency. As the sun sets now over Maplewood, you can still find Rebecca and Jamie sitting on that porch. The one that almost became a memory. The one that now glows gold under the evening light. Jamie still draws. His favorite picture is of their yellow house, surrounded by smiling faces. He calls it home, because in the end, no letter can evict love. No rule can silence kindness. And no community is truly alive until it learns how to stand together. If this story moved you, hit that like button. Subscribe for more true stories of courage, compassion, and quiet justice. And tell us in the comments, has your community ever come together like this one?